Imagine Horror Network, the official horror stories channel.
Tom and Emma were thrilled to move into their new apartment. They had been planning it for months and had finally found the perfect place. It was in a quiet neighborhood with friendly neighbors, and the apartment was spacious enough for the two of them. The couple had just graduated college and started their new careers, so they felt like it was the perfect time to find a place together and start a family. They spent the first few days unpacking and arranging their furniture. They were happy with their new home and looked forward to the years they would spend there. After spending a week in their new apartment, Tom and Emma had finally met their neighbor, a tall man with deep dark circles around his eyes. They tried to speak to him, but the man just stood there with a creepy smile on his face. The couple went back into their apartment and peeked out of their window only to see that the man had moved closer to their door. The man was just standing there. Tom and Emma was terrified, but the man quickly turned and went into his apartment. One night, while they were in bed, they heard strange noises coming from the other side of the wall. It sounded like someone was moving furniture or dragging something heavy. They tried to go back to sleep, but they kept hearing power tools and banging on their walls. Tom got up and put his ear up to the wall to see if he could hear what the man next door was doing. Tom told Emma, "Honey, I think I hear someone over there in pain." Emma got up to listen too, but as soon as she put her ear up to the wall, all the noise had stopped. The next morning, Tom decided to investigate. He went to the apartment next door, but there was no answer. He noticed a strange smell coming from under the door and became worried. He went back to their apartment and asked Emma, "Honey, do you remember it being a strange smell yesterday coming from our neighbor's apartment?" Emma replied, "No, why?" Tom said to Emma, "I just knocked on our neighbor's door, and I swear to you that it smells like something died in there." Emma walked over to their neighbor's apartment, and as soon as she approached the door, she was hit with the smell, and she immediately threw up. Tom ran inside of their apartment and called the police. The police arrived and knocked on the door of the neighbor's apartment. When there was no answer, they broke the door down. What they found was horrifying. The apartment was a mess, and there was blood everywhere. The police officers were terrified by the scene, and they couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The further they went inside the man's apartment, the more they found. In the kitchen, they found a bloody chair that was bolted down to the floor with rope attached to it. They opened his fridge and they found jars that had body parts in them. The police officers told the couple that it's quite possible that their neighbor had killed someone inside his apartment last night. Emma and Tom couldn't believe what they was being told. The police officers asked them if they saw anyone enter his apartment last night, and the couple told them no. They told them about how strange he was acting when they tried to speak to him. The officers told them that they had to find somewhere to stay until the investigation was over. Tom and Emma packed up some clothes, essential items, and went to a friend's house. The police launched an investigation and quickly identified a suspect. It was a man who had been renting the apartment for only a few weeks. He had a criminal record and was known to be violent. Weeks had passed. Tom and Emma was notified that they could return to their apartment. They asked the officers if they had caught the killer, and they told them that they are still in search of him. Emma and Tom thought it over and made the decision to return to their apartment. With the killer still being out there, Tom went and purchased a gun to protect them if anything was to happen or if the killer tried to return. The apartment that the killer had rented was never rented out to anyone, so it made the couple feel safe, but they couldn't forget what had happened. Months had passed and the couple didn't have any more issues, so they went on living comfortably in their apartment. They figured since the killer didn't return that he had been caught and put in prison for what he had done, but they couldn't be more wrong. One night while they were in bed, Emma and Tom heard strange noises coming from the killer's apartment, so Tom got out of the bed and went to see if anyone was in the apartment. Tom had a look of confusion on his face when he didn't see anything. He went back inside, shut the door, and said to Emma, "I don't think anyone is in there." The couple got back in bed and thought nothing else of it. The next night, while they were watching TV, they heard a knock at the door. When Tom opened it, he found the suspect standing in front of him. He forced his way into the apartment and began to attack the couple. Tom and Emma fought back, but they were no match for the killer. He was much stronger and more experienced. They were quickly overpowered, and the killer began to torture them. The killer was able to knock both of them unconscious, and when the couple woke up, they found that they were tied to a chair with rope and tape placed over their mouths, so no one could hear them scream. The man walked back into their apartment carrying a black leather bag with that same creepy smile on his face from when they first met him. The man walked over, placed his bag on their kitchen table, and put on surgical gloves. Tom and Emma started screaming and crying when they saw what the man had took out of his black leather bag. He walked up to them, got on one knee, and said, "It will all be over soon." He grabbed a spoon from their dish rack, walked up to Tom, and then proceeded to take out his eyes. Tom screamed as the man pulled out both of his eyes from his eye sockets. Emma cried as she had to witness what the man had did to Tom. The man laughed creepily and walked back to the table, this time grabbing a knife. He walked up to Emma, looked her in the eyes, and whispered, "Do you know what I liked about you when I first saw you?" He paused and then said, "Your hair." He walked behind her, pulled her head back, and then proceeded to detach her skin from her skull until he removed her hair. Emma screamed in pain and then she passed out. There was blood all over the floor as they continued to be tortured. With Emma being unconscious, the man took the knife and cut her throat, causing her to bleed out and die. Tom couldn't see what had happened because his eyes were removed, but when he couldn't hear Emma, he started screaming and crying. The man walked up to Tom and said, "Don't you worry, I took good care of her. She's in a better place now." The man took off Tom's shirt and said, "She told me that she wanted you to join her, so I'm going to grant her wish." The man, with one precise motion, cut Tom's stomach open and pulled out his intestines along with his internal organs. After hours of torture, the killer finally ended their lives. Weeks went by. Emma and Tom was still in their apartment dead until the landlord noticed that they missed their rent payment and they weren't picking up the phone. The landlord walked up to their door and noticed a horrible smell coming from their apartment. She also noticed that they haven't left their apartment in weeks. The landlord walked back to her office and called the police. When the police arrived, they kicked in their door and saw the gruesome scene. The landlord had put up surveillance cameras after what had happened the last time so she could catch anything strange happening. The police officers got a chance to watch the events leading up to them dying, and they found out that the killer had came back to murder the only witnesses that they had, which was Tom and Emma. After many leads, the killer was eventually caught and sentenced to death, but it was too late for the couple. Their families were devastated, and the community was in shock. The apartment was never rented out again. It was deemed too dangerous and was eventually torn down. Tom and Emma's families moved on, but they never forgot the horror that had taken place. Tom and Emma's tragic story became a cautionary tale, and their memories lived on in the hearts of those who knew and loved them. Their legacy served as a reminder that evil can strike anywhere, at any time.